Yeah, which is, yeah.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. Okay, we have a quorum with everyone present, so we'll call the meeting to order. The meeting was properly noticed, and the first order of business will be approving, first of all, the August 7th board meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for August 7th.
Is there a second? Seconded by Frank. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next will be approval of the August 14th board meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the August 14th minutes.
I'll second.
Okay, seconded by Todd. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. I will start off with the treasurer's report, please.
Okay, again, we had a pretty quiet month, as I've been doing for the last few months. I still think we're gonna end the year around 100 grand or so to the good. It's liable to be a little bit more, but I'm not willing to commit to that yet because I don't trust storms. I will say that 100 grand was reduced at the last board meeting as we put 20K aside for the 25th celebration, which I'm fine with. That just brings my 100 grand down to 80 grand. We've got a lot on the agenda that we would be spending money for if we approve them. So I'm not going to talk about the relative merits of them, but just from a financial standpoint, we could pay for them all out of current income and still have an anticipated surplus of around 40 grand. So from a financial standpoint, we're in pretty good shape. That's it.
Okay, great. Manager's report, please.
Okay, so we'll start with an update on the dock. JSC Contracting got the drawings and engineering done for that. They sent that over to me. I shared it with a couple of board members, and everything looks good on that. So we are, they've submitted that for approval for permitting. So hopefully they'll have that within the next couple of weeks, and then we'll get a date scheduled for them to start construction. And then an update on the gates and access cards. Last month, as you know, part of my update was we were having a lot of issues with the gates. We've, for the most part, got them all figured out. The RV lot, there was a sensor issue with the remotes not working. That's been resolved. The screen at the north gate, that was a challenge to get the part for, but we got that repaired, and it seems to all be working fine. There was a little bit of a glitch last week. They came out and fixed it again. So hopefully that will continue to operate the way it's supposed to. Pool umbrellas. You probably have noticed there's a couple of the large umbrellas that are not up along the tennis courts. That's because there's a couple of parts that have rusted out where we can't really repair them. So we've ordered replacements. Those should be in within the next couple of weeks, and then we'll get those all back up in the way they're supposed to be. The concrete pads at the sports courts, we had a sidewalk extension at the bocce court. That's all been completed. And then at the shuffleball courts, they have now a paved walkway and a pad for where the sticks or cues are stored, and that's all cleaned up. So that looks good. There is a section next to the pad where we're going to be putting some sod. So it does look a little unfinished at the moment, but that'll be cleaned up here soon. And then storm drains. A lot of you probably noticed the big caution area at the entrance of the community. There's a depression that's opened up next to one of our storm drains, and we have them look, I say them, RCM Utilities out to look at that. They've taken some measurements, and then within the next couple of days, they should start digging there. They're going to figure out what the problem is exactly and repair the lines and then fill the holes in. And we did also get one next opened on Pine Straw behind a storm drain. It's a small one that they looked at today, so hopefully that'll get repaired right after the big section. And then pending projects, the big one is the roads. The board today will be reviewing the engineer's plan for phase 1 and phase 4, section 2. And then the building project. Last week, Terry Gedman and I had spoke with the designer, Ashley, from the architect's office. We went over the changes, made sure we're all on the same page. I'm sorry, it wasn't Terry, it was Todd this time.
It was a T.
Yeah, so Todd and I reviewed that with Ashley. And what they're doing now is taking all the changes from the previous meeting, making sure they get put into the plans. They're gonna send us a copy of those plans. We'll verify that that's been, all that stuff's been corrected. And when I say they, it's not actually gonna come to a board meeting. It's just gonna be myself and 1 or 2 board members to make sure everything's caught. And then because the board had already approved those changes, they'll start going out and soliciting for bids. So what we're hoping is that by end of September, we have a bid or 2 that we could look at and the board can make a decision on, along with all the other costs of the project, and then we can pick a number for the project and then start community vote. So my plan would be to have all those additional numbers that we'll need for like landscaping, fencing, concrete, that type of stuff for next September, or for September board meeting, along with a proposal from ITIVO for the community vote of the project. And then hopefully in October, we'll have everything lined up to go to vote. That's best case scenario. It might be November, but that's kind of the way things are lining up for the building. And then Leland Games, registration starts September 3rd for Leland Games. I know Drew has been working with various, we'll call them captains or people that are of each of the sports, but there are other sports like bingo and trivia and things like that. So if anybody's interested in getting information about Leland Games, you can go to the Legacy Neighbors website, and on the communications tab, there's a Leland Games section. Has all the rules, all the events, the schedules, how to register. You can get information there, or you can call the office and talk to Drew. That's all I've got.
Okay, I think it was a lot. As you can tell, last month was very, very busy. We truly appreciate Josh, Matt, Drew, Eileen, John, everybody. They've been working really, really hard. As he already mentioned, we'll hopefully be getting back everything with Powell so we can go out to bid. Chris and I met with Yellowstone to negotiate the extension of the existing contract. We're very excited. They will not only be able to keep the increase down to 2% over the next 2 years, but also to now have them include an extra service, which is going to be weed eating the areas around your water and your reuse water meter boxes. Service should start in November of this year. And the only thing the residents are going to be required to do is the first time, if your boxes are covered up, which a lot of them have had the boxes grown over, you'll need to locate them and make sure it's initially uncovered. And then after that point, they will go ahead and take care of that. And we'll be voting on that extension today. Finance Committee has been working really hard along with Todd, working hand in hand with them on the 25 budget. They'll be presenting the budget, proposed budget to the board in September, followed by Todd in October presenting to the community. In case, I think everybody now is aware that we will be celebrating our 25th anniversary. It's going to be October 26th. Mark your calendars. Mary Kay and I will be working on it. We're working hand in hand with Drew and the CAM office. Drew's been working real hard on reaching out to several places to get catering pricing and menu selections for the event. And also we want to thank ahead of time Legacy Band, who's volunteered to provide the entertainment for it. And we know they'll do a great job. More information will be sent out by the CAM in upcoming weeks, so make sure to look forward to that. And last but not least, Labor Day is coming up, as you all know, on Monday. Just remember that there is a golf cart parade. If you're interested, make sure that you line up by 9:45 in the back circle. And if you don't want to join in the parade, I know everybody always sits out there and waves them on, so make sure to give them some support with that and just have a healthy, safe weekend. Thank you. Okay, so moving on, unfinished business. First thing we're going to discuss is phase 1 and 4 of the road resurfacing. Do we have anyone to speak before? No? Well, that's a surprise. Alrighty, the board has had a lot of information to go over and review. What I'll do is I will go around and see if the board has any comments, and then after that, we can go ahead and take a vote if you're ready. Frank, do you have anything?
Not at this time, but we do have to. Okay, I thought it was loud enough, sorry. Not exactly at this time. I think the crux is determining what the cost would be for 100% microsurfacing as opposed to the mill and fill on the cul-de-sacs, and see the cost of both and discuss what options we have, so.
Okay, Barb?
I want to thank David Lickley for thoroughly reading over 200 pages.
Yeah.
No, but,
We didn't hear what you said. Hello?
no.
Oh, hello. Okay. I want to thank David Lickley for thoroughly reading and perusing the 200 pages of this proposal. I got to the 80th page and I quit. Sorry, but I take David's word for it that it looks good, it's in good shape, and we always get really good work done by this company that put this together. I like the idea of doing the extra paving in the cul-de-sacs, because I mean, we drive our golf cart around every night practically, and the cul-de-sacs are really worn down. So doing that little extra, I do support that. Mill and fill versus whatever the other one is, microsurfacing. I don't know the difference, so I leave that up to people who know the difference.
Todd?
So I'll just piggyback on what Frank said. Are we going to know what the difference is between a mill and fill and a microsurface for the cul-de-sacs?
No, right now they've written this plan up to be
Right.
bid on
Right, and the only
as
reason.
it's written.
Okay, and the only reason I bring that up is, Frank, I don't think we'll have that information you think we're going to have. So, I mean, I'm fine with it the way it's written. I think the extra work on the cul-de-sacs is the right thing to do. I just don't want you to be surprised when we get the bids and it doesn't have a piece of information you were looking for.
Along those lines too, I agree with the mill and fill. However, I think the true picture is going to come into play when we get the bids back and see if it's a crazy exorbitant amount. We will know the price per square footage on the microsurfacing, and one of the possible ideas would be if we find at that point that the bids are quite high, then Josh, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but we could ask them for an amended bid to include everything just as the microsurfacing, correct?
Yeah, and there's a way we could back into what the price difference would be. So on your road study, the recommendation was originally just to do microsurfacing, no milling and filling of the cul-de-sacs. So if we look at their estimated number on that, and it's just for the mill and fill, or for the microsurfacing, sorry, this will get confusing if I mess that up. So their recommendation was just for microsurfacing. They've come back and modified that based on comments that we've gave them about concerns about the wear of the cul-de-sacs. So right now they have microsurfacing on everything that's basically straight surface, then they'll tear up the surface in the cul-de-sacs and do the mill and fill, which is basically like 1.5 inches of new asphalt. So if we look at their estimate in the road study, that tells us what it was for just microsurfacing. If we get the bids and they're, let's say, way higher, what we can look at is the cost per foot of the microsurfacing, and kind of, we'll see if there was a difference in what they estimated in the road study, and that's how we could back into the estimated amount. But if the number comes back too high, to answer your question, we could always go to them and say, we want to revise the plan, we'd like to just microsurface everything, and then we could find out what that would cost. Does that make sense?
Yeah, Chris?
Well, learning what we learned the last time, people won't stay off of the microsurfacing. That's the problem. That's the big problem. Also, the first people that came in and sold us about the microsurfacing, they said, oh, you can drive on it in an hour. Well, maybe in 24 hours you can drive on it and everything's okay. I like the idea of milling and filling the cul-de-sacs. That makes sense because they do get the hardest wear. And I know it's going to be more. We'll just have to see what that is, but hopefully it won't be too wild and crazy. But I think the mill and fill for the cul-de-sacs and the microsurfacing for everything else would be the way to go.
Okay, thank you, Dave.
I'm not a fan of the microsurfacing, but I'll go along with it. It seems to be the consensus. I do like the idea of the approach to the cul-de-sacs, which is the removing, the certain amount. What do you call it, Chris? I lose the name. Mill and fill. Yeah, that is a much better approach. So I'm happy with that, and I do think that the cul-de-sacs get, with all the turning, especially of the garbage trucks and in the larger vehicles, that they get worn up. It gets worn down, the aggregate gets loosened and spread around. So I think that's a good approach. I will say, as Barbara mentioned, I read the entire document, and believe me, it is very, very thorough. As I had said in an email to the rest of the board members, I wish the rest of our RFPs were as thorough as this one is, because it's very in-depth and actually has a lot of metrics in it. So,
Mary Kay?
I too would like to see what the difference in cost is between mill and fill and just microsurfacing. And if it's excessive, I think we should stick with the straight microsurfacing. My other question is, we just finished roads on the other side of the community, and there were cul-de-sacs over there. We didn't mill and
Yes,
fill.
we did. It
We
was all
milled
mill
and
and
filled
fill.
every cul-de-sac?
The whole road.
Every
everything.
cul-de-sac got milled and filled.
All of that was mill and fill.
But there were no IMAs reported in this section?
No.
Okay. But I want to reserve judgment until I see what the prices are.
Okay, Frank?
I pretty much agree with everyone that I think we have to count the costs first before we make any decision, because, central testing gives their opinion to a lot of different communities, and I remember them saying that in most communities they would just say microsurface, and they do that and there's no problem. Because we've had a history of very few people complaining about particularly one cul-de-sac in all of them that we have. Now we're soured against that, and we're leaning toward the mill and fill. And that might be the best way, but I'd have to see the cost of both. I'd have to see the other advantages of the mill and fill to see if it lasts longer, so we could see our return on investment and when we would have to revisit those, those areas again. So whatever makes the most sense once we see the two prices will be good. Mind you, we have a lot of cul-de-sacs in Legacy, and to my knowledge, we've only had a huge amount of complaints about one from one person. So let's get all the info first before we take it any longer. I think that's the most prudent way to proceed. Thank you.
Okay, Todd?
Josh, if this is approved, when do you think we will see bids back as a board?
30 to 45 days.
Okay, so probably the October meeting? Right, 30 days would be cutting it close.
Yeah, we'll probably have to maybe work something in a little extra, because what we don't want to do is get a bid from a contractor and then make them wait a month
Right.
to respond to it.
Okay, but 30 to 45 days.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
So what you're basically approving today, if you approve it, is their plan to go out and get bids. That's essentially
Right.
what you're doing. You're not committing to anything because you haven't seen a dollar amount, but you're saying, this is a good plan, go get us some bids, let's see what happens.
Okay, is there a motion to accept the report and authorize them to move forward with obtaining bids.
I make a motion to accept the report from Central Testing and to move forward with them to go forward with an RFP.
Okay, is there, go ahead. No, second, okay, seconded by Barb. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nay, all right, motion carries. Thank you all. Moving on to new business. First one, the garage sale date, and event details. So, does anybody have anything to say regarding that, Josh?
So I'll just run through, usually we do it the first or second week, based on holidays, but I think the first week is probably, of November,
Yep.
is probably the best one based on the calendar. And, when I say event details, basically it'd be running it like we have the last few years. We have some flyer boxes out, the gates are open at, around 8-ish, depending on how crazy it gets out there.
Yeah.
And then it goes to, what do we normally do, 1 or 2? 1 o'clock? Garage sale, so 1 o'clock. And, yeah, and then we normally, $5 per resident, they get a permit, and then we put together maps. So if you guys are okay with how it's been run, that's what we would do again.
Yeah, is there a motion to accept the first weekend in November and let the CAM
I'll
handle?
make the motion that we accept the first week of November for the, is your microphone on? I couldn't.
Go ahead.
No, I think hers is doing.
I make a motion that we accept the proposal to do the first Saturday in November from 8 to 1 for the community-wide garage sale.
I'll second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. All right, moving on. The next is the Yellowstone contract extension. I briefly mentioned it in the president's report. We, as I said, we're really happy with how the negotiations went. Going up 2%, which will lock in the rate for 2 years, I feel is very good. Most contracts have gone up 5% or more, and we're getting a little bit of something else extra out of them for it. So maybe Dave, or Mary Kay, do you have anything that you want to say, or?
I'm sorry, no,
This-
about
no,
the
okay.
Yellowstone contract, no.
No. Dave?
No, I'm very happy with the 2% increase for 2 years.
Okay, Chris?
Yeah, I was very satisfied with how the negotiations went. That's, yeah.
Yeah. Todd?
I'm good.
Yeah, Frank?
Yeah, I think that's great. My one question is though, however, on this Exhibit A, it does say meter box edging monthly at each home, just under $6,000. So, they are attributing a dollar amount to that, even though our perception is they didn't raise the price from that initial bid, and they included that for free. So just, I don't know if you want to touch on that.
Yeah, so the trade-off kind of was with that, the ball field maintenance would have been normally more, but thanks to the softball club and what have you, they've been doing a lot of extra work themselves. Bill Stolenberg and that whole group. So because of that, we were able to negotiate down what we're being charged for the ball field maintenance, and then they added it as the line item for meter box edging.
And Josh could probably explain this better than I can, but the reason why we wanted that meter box done is because the city of Leesburg subcontracted to a company to physically look at every meter, and they were upset that they couldn't even find some of the meters, and it took them longer, so they wondered why we weren't keeping the meter boxes exposed, and so this would rectify that problem. So.
Correct, and the other thing was too, I'm not saying that everybody doesn't have a weed eater, but some of our residents may be not able to get out there and do it, so we thought this would be another really good added benefit as well in that respect. So it kind of solves two issues at one time. Anybody else have anything else? If not, is there a motion to accept the extension to the contract for 2 years with Yellowstone?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Todd, and do you have anything else, or?
No, I was just gonna second. These are the numbers that were used in the 2025 budget, so I mean, we've already sort of
Yeah.
taken that into account.
Yeah. Okay.
our current amount budgeted as of 10/1. This contract starts.
Yeah.
It starts 11/1. Yep, yep, yep,
But, yeah,
that's okay.
so we will have 2 months this year, the higher,
Mm-hmm.
which I'm trying to remember, I thought we took that into account last year, but it's not all that much for the 2 months.
Yeah, you did, because when you did it, you looked at the 2-month extension that was already on there, which was
Right.
$765. So essentially, it's the same thing, so you should be covered.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Okay, next, DWC outdoor palm pruning. Josh, do you want to explain a little on this one?
Sure. So we have a lot of palm trees, as you can see on that proposal, and we have to maintain them every year. Now, in the past, we've had Yellowstone take care of that, but they put a markup in that amount, so we have the relationship with the person that they sub out to. We might as well just hire them directly, and so that's what these proposals are for. There's 2 of them, because there's one that just does what they do every year, basic trimming. The other is would include the boots of all of the trees. That hasn't been done for about 4 or 5 years, and they're building up quite a bit. So the arborist recommended that we include that, and that's the 2 of them. So one of them, the 14,000, I think, is just the trimming. The 20 is including all the boots on all the palm trees.
Okay, Frank, do you have anything?
Are those amounts, Todd, included in our budget?
So this is a 2025 expense, so we did take that into account when we were building the 2025 budget, as I understand it.
Yep.
Right? This is
Correct.
all work
Okay.
for next year, so as we planned for 2025, we knew this was coming and it's been included.
Great, so it doesn't come out of reserves or, this
No,
isn't extra?
no.
Okay, excellent, okay.
Yeah, Barb, anything? No. Todd?
I think I'm fine with doing the boots. I mean,
Yeah.
if it's every 4 or 5 years, I think that's great. And I guess since we should have an expense with this, it should come out of account 6550, tree
Yep,
management.
that's where we put the budget for.
Okay.
So.
Good.
Okay, Chris?
No, I don't have anything extra. No.
Dave?
No, I'm satisfied.
Mary
I'm
Kay?
good.
Okay, would someone like to make a motion?
I make a motion that we accept the bid from DWC to prune the palm trees and the boots.
I'll second the motion.
And we should probably have that read for a price of $21,375 and out of account 6550.
Okay,
So then I'll revise the motion to include the
Okay,
cost.
perfect, thank you.
any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right. Okay, next is the proposal for the bocce court and curbing. I know we have someone after. Do we have anyone prior to this? Nope. Okay. Josh, do you want to give a little bit of history on this?
Sure. So we have courts 1 and 2 are the ones closest to the parking lot. Courts 3 and 4 were installed later, and they used more modern composite materials and vertical supports. So when you look at those courts, they've held up pretty good. But 1 and 2 have pressure treated wood that's basically rotted out,
Right.
like we had talked about before when you guys asked us to get quotes. So what this proposal's for is to remove all of the wood and rebuild they call it curbing as with composite materials. So they'll be nice, clean, new, and the playing surface isn't getting touched, just the curbing.
Okay.
And I verified that there's 2 different, the support system on the courts 3 and 4 are like a square steel tubing, and 1 and 2 have the round, and they have verified, they did come out and check to make sure that rebuilding them with the composite, the way they had planned, will work for the existing supports, which is good, because if we had to remove those, put new, it would be substantially higher,
Right.
so.
Okay. Any discussion, Mary Kay?
No?
Dave?
No.
Chris?
Not at all.
Todd?
Take this out of account 6910, amenities? I mean, I was trying to figure out where this fits.
I would do probably grounds versus
Grounds?
amenities, just because amenities tends to be like supplies It's
Okay.
kind of how we've been treating it, because it's only got a smaller budget.
So what's your account number then?
6790, general grounds.
Okay, Barb, do you have anything? Frank?
No.
Oh, okay, do I have a motion then to accept the proposal as provided and with it coming out of account 6790?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Seeing no discussion, all those, oh, I'm sorry,
One other person that wanted to talk?
after.
Dave, you still want to talk?
Yeah,
Yep,
I just,
okay.
I think it's important when the committee makes, okay. All right.
That's so the people at home can see it. They love you, Dave, they love you.
So for the people at home, this is. So for the people at home, I'm Dave Englander. I live on Nostalgia Drive, a resident 18 years. I chair the Bocce Club. And so I think it's important that when you submit a request before the board and you get good cooperation and support, it's important to express a thank you for that. And so that's my purpose of coming up for two things. One, the concrete looks great that you added to extend the sidewalk. Very much appreciated by all the bocce players and other residents that as well use those courts. So it's a good job and again, very much appreciated. And this as well, so thank you.
All right, thank you very much. We have anyone else? No?
That's it.
Okay, then we have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. The motion carries. Okay, next, irrigation installation at Flag Circle. Josh?
Okay, so a while back, I sent you guys a couple of concept drawings with ideas to enhance the circle. The number one feedback I got was, let's just get water there first. So that's what this is. So it's a very simple proposal for them to cut a small strip of asphalt and bring in water in from the island where the trees and grass are before you get to the circle. And then what they're going to do is run irrigation all the way around the circle that will come up out of the pavers into the existing pots. So there's no plants or anything decided at this time. It is just getting water to each one of those pots, and then we can figure out if we want to, what plants and that sort of thing we want to add later. But first step would be the water. And I thought that it was important to get this done before the roads because that section will be resurfaced. So when they do cut into that with the resurfacing, it will cover that up.
Yeah, okay, very good. Mary Kay, you want to start?
That was my question, was will we get this done before the roads get resurfaced?
Okay, Dave?
I think it's a very reasonable cost to get this done, so I'm pleased with it.
Okay, Todd?
I think for $3,500, it's the right thing to do.
Yep. And what account?
So I would go with 6790. Sure. Okay.
What was that?
6790. Okay, Barb, do you have anything?
Yes, that's coming out of the same thing as the bocce.
Yes.
Grounds.
Yeah, it's coming out of the general grounds account.
Yeah, Frank?
Yes, so I've always thought it was a great idea to run water there. You know, for years I thought that's something we should do. And so I've advocated for this, and in light of the other things that we spend money on easily, this doesn't look bad. I'll just comment though, sometimes I think Yellowstone should sharpen their pencil a little bit because, for instance,